Captain Reed sat in the cockpit of the starship Artemis as the distress beacon pulsed on his console. He stared at the coordinates, a planet uncharted in any human atlas. Curiosity and duty tugged at him in equal measure. He ran a hand over his trimmed beard and nodded to himself. He would answer the call. The Artemis dropped out of warp above a planet wrapped in violet clouds and jagged mountain ranges. The sensors picked up a single life sign at ground zero. Reed suited up and donned his helmet, his breath misting in the cold air of the shuttle bay. He climbed into the shuttle, checked the systems, and engaged the thrusters. When he emerged from the shuttle's ramp, the alien sky hung heavy with swirling clouds. The wind carried a sharp scent of ozone and something sweet, like flowers blooming under rain. He scanned the horizon and saw a stone temple rising on a plateau of black rock. Its walls glowed faintly with veins of living crystal. At the threshold stood a lone figure. She was tall and graceful, with skin that rippled in shades of pale lavender under the shifting light. Her eyes were wide and bright like polished pearls. Long silver hair flowed down her back, caught in the wind. She wore a simple robe of white fabric that hugged her slender form. Reed stood still, his heart pounding with both wonder and caution. The figure spoke. Her voice was clear and gentle, echoing softly in his helmet. "Please come inside of me, human." Reed froze for a moment, taken off guard by her words. Studied her carefully, looking for any threat. Her face held no trace of danger. Instead, it held hope and an unspoken plea. He felt drawn to her, to answer the mystery hidden in her strange request. He stepped forward. Each footfall on the rocky ground echoed in the silence around them. As he neared the temple's open doorway, he realized the woman did not mean to join with him in any forbidden way. She meant the temple itself. The ancient building had fused with her very being. To enter it, he had to trust her. The cave-like entrance yawned before him. Crystal formations jutted from the walls, glowing softly. They pulsed with his heartbeat as he approached. The princess extended her hand, shimmering with light. Reed took it, surprised at the warmth that flowed into him. It felt like a welcome, as if the temple were inviting him in. Inside, the hall stretched far beyond what he expected. Columns of living crystal rose to a vaulted ceiling, formed of woven light and stone. The air hummed with energy. Reed moved, cautiously, his eyes darting to every shadow. The princess glided beside him, her robes barely stirring. She spoke again, her voice echoing on the crystalline walls. "This temple is part of me," she said. "My people built it long ago. We wove our life force into the crystals. Now the temple holds the memory and power of our world." Reed nodded. He switched on his visor lights, revealing carvings on the walls. They showed scenes of her people living in harmony with the crystals, children dancing around a glowing pool, elders communing in a circle of stones, starships departing under a sky of crystal shards. The art was beautiful and strange. "Why do you need me?" Reed asked softly. Ariella paused at a smooth stretch of floor where no cracks or seams were visible. Her eyes shone with quiet urgency. "My people faced a great danger," she explained. "A darkness came to this world. It sought to consume the crystals and all the life within them. In our last hour, we bound the temple to my mind, but I alone cannot awaken its true power." Reed studied her face. She wore no armor, no weapon, only the weight of responsibility in her eyes. He felt a surge of respect and protectiveness. "I will help you," he said firmly. She smiled, and the crystals around them brightened. "Thank you, Captain Reed." They continued deeper. The halls narrowed into a tunnel of jagged crystal. Fibers of light ran along the ceiling like veins. Reed could almost hear a low hum, like distant voices singing. He placed a hand on the wall. Electricity coursed through him, but it was not painful. It felt alive. Ariella closed her eyes, pressing a hand to her temple. Reed watched as her face shifted in concentration. Suddenly, images filled his mind, scenes of her world's history and moment's joy, celebration, then terror as the darkness arrived. He saw the monstrous shapes devouring forests of crystal-like hungry beasts. He felt the fear of her people as they hid in underground caverns. He gasped, stepping back. The vision faded. He steadied himself, surprised by its intensity. Ariola opened her eyes, tears glistening. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "The temple shares its burden with me." Reed placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "It's all right," he said. "We share burdens together." She nodded, wiping her eyes. The tunnel ended at a great chamber. Out. At its center stood a massive crystal heart, pulsating with white light. The pulse echoed like a drumbeat in Reed's chest. The walls of the chamber were carved with runes he could not read. The air smelled of ozone and moonflowers. Ariola stepped before the heart, raising her arms. "This is the core," she said. "It keeps our world alive." But the darkness poisoned its light. Now it weakens. Looked at Reed. "To restore it, you must place your hand on me and the heart at the same time. Our minds will connect, and together we will awaken the power within." Reed hesitated. He thought of the risks and known psychic bonds, possible loss of self. But he also thought of the princess, brave and vulnerable before him, and the world she loved. He nodded. "I trust you," he said. Ariola reached for his hand. Her fingers were cool and firm. Reed held her hand gently, then placed his other hand on the crystal heart. Light flared. A surge of warmth shot through his body like sunlight breaking through clouds. The chamber rumbled. Crystal veins on the walls glowed brighter, spreading light like roots reaching for water. Visions returned. But this time they held joy and hope. Her people dancing, healing, building. Reed saw the darkness retreating, swallowed by light. He felt Ariola's gratitude and strength, forming a bond between them. The light pulsed faster, then calmed. The crystal heart's glow turned steady and strong. The chamber fell silent. The tunnel lights dimmed to a soft glow. Reed and Ariola stood together, breathless. Ariola looked at Reed with wonder. "You did it," she said softly. "You saved my world." Reed smiled, feeling both relief and awe. "You did it," he corrected. They stood in silence for a moment, the temple alive around them. Outside, the violet clouds shifted, revealing a clear sky. Distant stars twinkled above. Reed felt a new sense of purpose. Beyond saving this world, he had formed a bond with an alien princess, and together they would face whatever came next. And so, in that ancient temple of living crystal, a human and an alien stood side by side, united by trust and hope, ready for the journey ahead. The temple's light faded to a gentle glow as Reed and Ariola stepped out into the clearing. The violet clouds still swirled overhead, but the air felt warmer now, alive with renewed energy. Ariola turned with a smile, her silver hair catching. "The light, our world is safe for now," she said. Reed nodded, but his eyes drifted upward to the dark sky, high above the planet's surface. He spotted a sharp silhouette against the clouds, a warship, its hull dark and angular. It hovered in silent watch, its engines pulsing with low power. Reed's heart tightened. "We are not alone," he said quietly. Ariola followed his gaze, and her smile vanished. They hurried along a path of black stone, toward the edge of the plateau. The living crystal in the ground pulsed beneath their footsteps, as if urging them onward. When they reached the cliff's edge, Reed activated his visor's long-range scanner. The warship's sensors were sweeping the planet, searching for any sign of life. Ariola placed a hand on Reed's arm. "That ship belongs to the Serax Empire," she explained. "They sent it to harvest our crystals. They think our power can become a weapon." She looked down toward the forested valley. "If they find the temple, they will break its heart," Reed's jaw said. He scanned for any allied vessels. The human fleet was far beyond reach. The Artemis was still docked in lunar orbit above. He frowned. "I cannot call for backup until we know more," he said. "We need a plan." They moved off the cliff and descended a narrow trail into the valley. Glowing crystal flowers dotted the ground, casting soft light on the path. Ariola paused to touch one. It shivered and bloomed with quick petals before closing again. "These are the living flowers," she said. "They sense danger and warn the temple. Their bloom means The enemy is near. Reed crouched beside a flower and examined it. Its petals glowed a warning red. So the blooms tell us where to go and where to hide, he said. Areola nodded. Together they followed a line of flowers that glowed faintly orange, leading toward a hidden grove. The grove opened into a clearing where ancient statues stood, carved from crystal. They depicted guardians of the temple, humanoid figures with outstretched arms. Moss and vines wove between their limbs. Areola approached a statue and placed her palm on its chest. The stone beneath her hand vibrated, and a soft hum filled the air. These guardians are seals, she said. They protect the temple from harm. If we awaken them, they will fight for us. But I cannot awaken more than one at a time. She looked at Reed. I need your help again. Reed offered his hand. Whatever you need, he said. Areola smiled and took his hand. A beam of light shot from the statue's chest into Areola's eyes. Her form shimmered as she merged with the statue. Reed watched in awe as the crystal figure below her feet lifted and shifted, coming to life. The guardian strode forward, its steps firm and echoing like thunder. It lifted an immense crystalline blade. Its eyes glowed bright white. Areola's voice came from the statue's mouth, calm and resolute. We stand against the invader. Reed felt hope. The guardian marched to the trees, its blade raised. Distant gunfire echoed through the valley as automated ships from the warship fired down. The guardian met the fire, its blade shattering energy bursts in midair. It advanced, clearing a path back to the temple. Areola released her bond, and the statue froze once more. She looked at Reed, sweat on her brow. That will slow them, she said, but not stop them. Reed nodded. We need to strike at their ship. They hurried back up the trail to a high ridge overlooking the valley floor. The warship was in low orbit, its underside open as it prepared to lower harvest drones. Reed's mind raced. They needed a way on board. He glanced at Areola. Can the temple help us reach them? Areola considered. There is an ancient portal at the temple entrance, she said. Once linked our world to the sky, it was lost for centuries. She pointed to a carved arch at the temple's base, half buried in vines. If we restore it, we can enter their ship directly. Reed studied the arch. Faint runes glowed in the stone. He knelt and traced them with his finger. The power is still here, he said. We just need to activate it. Areola placed her palm on the runes. She closed her eyes and murmured in her native tongue. The runes flared with light, and the arch hemmed. A shimmering portal opened beneath the arch, rippling like water. Reed stared in wonder. Areola stepped through and beckoned him. This will take us to the dock bay of their ship. Be careful. Reed nodded and followed. He felt the rush of wind as the portal swallowed them. For a moment he saw bright light. Then they stood in a vast hangar filled with drones and crates of harvested crystals. Steel beams crisscrossed above them. Alarms were blaring. Areola and Reed crouched behind a row of cargo boxes. A pair of Sirac soldiers strode by, weapons in hand. Areola pressed a hand to her temple and whispered. Reed felt the words form in his mind, make them see nothing but shadows. Yet suddenly the soldiers paused, looking around in confusion. There. Weapons slipped from their grasp as if held by unseen force. They shook their heads and walked away, unaware of Areola and Reed. Reed smiled in amazement. Mind trick, he whispered. Areola nodded. But it drains me, she said softly. We must hurry. They slipped from cover and ran toward a central corridor. Distant footsteps and the drone of hovercraft engines echoed ahead. Reed checked his sidearm and motioned to Areola. They pressed forward, hugging the walls.
Ow.
The corridor curved upward into the ship's heart. Thriving crystals and glass containers lined the walls, pulsing like living hearts. Reed felt uneasy seeing his world's crystals treated like cargo. Areola reached a control panel. Her eyes glowed as she read its interface. This is the power grid, she said. If we overload it, the ship will lose power, maybe even crash. Reed scanned for a manual override, found a series of valves and levers. He took a deep breath. I can do it, he said. He placed his hands on the controls. Sparks flew. As he yanked the levers, warning lights flashed red. The ship shuddered. Areola grabbed his arm. "It will hurt," she warned. Reed gritted his teeth and held firm. The panel sparked and hissed. He felt a jolt run through his body, but he kept pulling. The hum of the ship's engines slowed. Alarms grew louder. Areola reached out and focused her power on the controls. The hum stopped. Then an explosion rocked the ship as power lines blew. Red stumbled and fell to his knees. Areola knelt beside him, pressing her hand to his back. Warmth flowed into him, steadying his breath. Through a broken window, he saw the warship shudder in orbit. Its engines sputtered and died. The ship drifted off course. The docking bay doors began to seal. Areola helped Reed to his feet. "We must get back to the temple," she said. "The portal will close soon." They ran back down the corridor as sparks flew and metal twisted around them. The portal arch appeared through a shattered wall, light shimmering at its center. Reed and Areola dove through just as the ship's systems overloaded. In a final cascade of light and sound, they emerged beneath the temple arch, the portal dissolving behind them. Areola sank to her knees, breathing hard. Reed knelt beside her, offering water from his pack. She drank gratefully, her hands trembling. Reed looked up at the sky, and the warship was gone, leaving only silence in its wake. The violet clouds glowed. With dawn's first light, he smiled at Areola. "We did it," he said softly. Areola reached for his hand. Her eyes were bright with relief and gratitude. "You did more than save the temple," she said. "My people's future." Reed squeezed her hand. "We saved it together." They rose and walked back toward the temple. Behind them, living crystal veins pulsed brightly as if celebrating their victory. A new day had begun on the violet world, and a human and an alien princess stood side by side, ready for whatever might come next. Reed and Areola walked away from the temple under a sky washed in pale violet light. The air tasted of fresh rain and warm earth. Living crystal veins in the ground glowed softly, guiding their steps. Together, they followed a winding path toward a grove where ancient trees grew among shards of crystal. As they moved, Areola spoke quietly. "The temple's power is restored," she said, "but our work has only begun." Reed nodded. He felt the weight of her words. They had saved the heart of her world, but now they must help its people rebuild. They reached the grove's edge and paused. Before them lay a small village of crystal huts. Gentle lights shone from within, and figures moved behind carved windows. Villagers gathered outside, their faces a mix of hope and uncertainty. Children with lavender skin peeked from behind their parents, wide-eyed at the sight of a human. Areola smiled and lifted her hand in greeting. "Friends," she called, her voice clear and warm, "our world lives again." The villagers stirred, whispering among themselves. An elder woman with silver hair stepped forward. She wore simple robes etched with glowing runes. Bowing low, she said, "We thank you, Princess, and you, human. You carry the hope of two worlds." Reed inclined his head. "I am honored," he said, "but I only did what you asked." The elder's eyes shone. "You did more. You gave us the chance to live." She turned to the crowd. "Let us welcome our new ally." Cheers rose. Drums beat in a steady rhythm as villagers danced around fires. Crystal lanterns floated above them, bobbing like friendly spirits. Reed watched, feeling the joy reach into his heart. Areola slipped her hand into his. Together, they joined the celebration. Later, as the crowd thinned, Areola led Reed to a council hall built from crystal and wood. Inside, the air was cool. Walls carved with symbols glowed softly. A round table sat in the center, where 5 council members waited. Each wore robes of different colors, marking their roles: healer, historian, guardian, builder, and sage. The healer spoke first. "Princess Areola, Captain Reed," she said, "we propose to restore our villages and forests. But the damage to the crystal network is deep. We need your advice." Reed studied the table's surface. In its center lay a map of the planet etched in crystal. Areas still dark, marked places the darkness had consumed. We should start with small sections. He said, "Test the temple's power here and here." He pointed to 2 regions on the map. "If the temple's energy flows, we can heal the land." The historian nodded. "We have records of how our ancestors healed the world long ago," she said. "But we lack the strength." Ariola placed a hand on the map and closed her eyes. A faint glow spread from her palm, filling the hall with soft light. "The temple's bond lives in me," she said. "But I feel the network's threads here." She tapped one region. "We can send light through the crystals," the builder spoke. "We will organize teams to clear debris and set up relay crystals. Each relay will channel energy from the temple to the land." The guardian stood. "I will oversee the creation of new protectors," he said. "Statues like the first, but lighter for speed. They will guard the workers." The sage smiled. "And I will guide our people in using this gift wisely." Ariola looked at Reed. "With your help, we can rebuild faster," she said. "You know, machines and tools humans use?" Reed nodded. "Humans can share technology," he said. "We'll teach you how to build devices to amplify crystal energy safely," the council agreed. Plans formed quickly, and the hall filled with a sense of purpose. Reed felt proud to stand with them, an unexpected ambassador for his species. The next morning, Reed and Ariola rowed in a crystal skiff across a shallow lake. The skiff glowed under their feet, powered by small crystal nodes. The water was clear, and fish with translucent fins darted below. Across the lake rose a dark scar of land where the darkness had swept through. Dead trees stood like skeletons, and the ground was cracked and lifeless. Reed studied the scar. He felt sadness for the loss. He turned to Ariola. "We start here?" She bowed her head. "Yes. This was once our greatest orchard." He tapped the skiff's control. The craft hummed and hovered closer to shore. Villagers waited with relay crystals in hand. Each relay was a prism of cut crystal mounted on a wooden stand. The builder and historian led the group. Red stepped off and knelt to inspect the first relay. "We place these at equal distances," he said, "connected by wires made of crystal threads." He showed them how to grind crystal powder and weave it into thin fibers. The healer used water from the lake to polish each fiber. As they worked, a distant rumble shook the ground. Reed and Ariola looked up. A small fleet of ships emerged through the clouds. Sleek vessels with wing-like fins flew low, scanning the land. Reed's breath caught. "Another ship," he said. "Who are they?" Ariola's face darkened. "I do not know," she said. "They bear no Serex markings." She placed a hand on his arm. "We must stay calm." The ships hovered. Above the village, a hatch opened on the lead craft, and a ramp descended. Figures emerged, wearing smooth helmets and gray suits. They walked in formation toward the grove. Reed drew his sidearm, but Ariola raised a hand. "They come in peace," she said, reading their approach. "They carry no weapons." The figures stopped at the grove's border. One removed his helmet. He had dark hair and pale skin. He bowed deeply. "I am Envoy Sol from the Andara Confederation," he said. "We received signals of crystal power. We wish to help, if you will let us." Ariola studied him. "Why help now?" she asked. Sol raised his hands. "We fear the Sirax Empire's reach," he said. "If they learn to weaponize your crystals, the Confederation is next. We come to form an alliance." Reed stepped forward. "You must be cautious," he said. "Not all who offer help are true." Sol nodded. "We understand your doubt," he said. "We will show you our intentions by assisting in the healing." Now, Ariola turned to Reed. "What do you think?" she asked. He looked at Sol's calm eyes. "I think we should trust but verify," he said. "Let them help today. If they work with us, we learn their ways." Ariola agreed. "Very well," she said. "Today, we unite." Sol smiled and addressed the villagers. "Let us build together," he said. "Let us heal what was broken." Reed knelt beside a relay crystal and guided Sol's hands in weaving the crystal threads. The sun broke through the clouds, and beams of light danced across the lake's surface. Together, human, alien, and Endara envoy worked side by side. As the relay network took shape, Reed felt a new hope. Challenges still lay ahead: the Sirax Empire, the unknown allies, the healing of a wounded world. But here, in shared effort, he saw the first true step toward peace. And at his side, Ariala's gentle strength shone like a beacon, reminding him that even in the darkest times, unity could light the way. Reed woke before dawn in the Crystal Grove. The soft glow of relay crystals lit the clearing like stars fallen to earth. Ariola sat nearby, her silver hair catching the pale light as she traced ancient runes in the soil with her fingertip. He rose quietly and joined her, breathing in the cool morning air. "How do you feel?" he asked. Ariola looked up and smiled. "Hopeful," she said, "but also uneasy. The Endara envoy helped us yesterday, but we still do not know their true purpose." Reed nodded. "We watch them closely. Trust, but verify." He stood and stretched. "We should test the relay network today. If the energy flows as planned, the dark scar will heal faster." They gathered the council members and Envoy Soul at the edge of the dead orchard. Reed pointed to a relay crystal near the first sapling buried in cracked soil. "We channeled temple energy through this network. If it works, new life will follow." Soul bowed. "We are ready to help." Together, the group worked in silence, connecting crystal threads between relays. Children watched from a safe distance, their lavender faces bright with curiosity. The sage murmured words of encouragement, and the healer sprinkled water blessed. With herb extracts over each relay, when the final thread snapped into place, Ariala and Reed pressed their hands on the first and last relay at once. A pulse of light raced along the crystal threads, pulsing like a heartbeat. The air trembled and a low hum rose from the ground. Villagers gasped as green shoots emerged between the cracks, growing swiftly into slender saplings. Leaves unfurled, glistening with dew. Arya like single quotes his eyes. She whispered. Reed smiled. "You did it?" he said. But she shook her head. "We did it," she corrected. A cheer rose from the villagers. Even Envoy Soul smiled, clapping beside the builder and guardian. The grove felt alive with possibility, but the celebration was cut short by a distant roar. Reed stiffened and scanned the sky. Dark shapes trailed smoke above the horizon. "Sirax fighters," he said, voice low. Ariola's face paled. "They must have tracked the portal." She rose and drew energy from the temple's link within. Her hands glowed softly. "We must defend the network." Reed drew his sidearm. Soul and the Guardian readied weapons at their hips. The builder fetched spare relay crystals to form barriers. The villagers scattered, seeking shelter behind crystalline statues. 2 Sirax fighters dove low, their cannons spitting beams of blue energy. They strafed the grove, blasting relay crystals and uprooting saplings. Reed ducked behind a fallen statue and returned fire, his shots hitting the fighters' shields. Soul joined him, firing precise bursts that forced one fighter off course. Ariola ran to the damaged crystals and placed her hands on the broken threads. Light flared, mending the crystal fibers instantly. She chanted words in her language, and the repaired relay pulsed with brighter energy. The fighter swooped again. She unleashed a wave of psychic force that sent it spinning away in a cloud of sparks. The Guardian charged forward. Summoned by Ariola's call, the statue came to life and struck one fighter with its crystalline blade, shattering its hull in a shower of debris. The second fighter banked and tried to escape, but Reed aimed carefully and disabled its engine with a shot to the wing. It crashed into a grove of petrified trees where it lay smoldering. Silence fell. Smoke drifted through the clearing. Villagers crept from hiding, eyes wide with fear and relief. Envoy Soul approached Reed and bowed. "Your courage saved us," he said. Reed shook his head. "We saved each other." Ariala knelt beside a victim of the attack. An empty relay shattered on the ground. She gathered crystal shards and whispered over them. When she placed them back, they glowed anew. The earth trembled, and new shoots grew around her feet. She looked up at Reed. "The temple helps us fight, but each repair costs me energy. Reed knelt beside her. We need a better defense. He stood and addressed Sol and the council. We should move the most vital relays closer to the temple where its power is strongest, and build walls of woven crystal around the groves. The builder nodded. We have enough fragments from the crashed fighters. She gestured to the metal and crystal wreckage. We can melt them down and reinforce our defenses. Ariola stood and placed a hand on Reed's shoulder. And I will rest, she said, to gather strength. Reed frowned. You need rest? She smiled gently. You have done so much already. Your people have much to teach us, but some tasks only I can do. She turned to Sol. Can your healers help me recover? Sol bowed again. Of course, he said. Our medics study mind and body. They led Ariola to a crystal pavilion where soft light and healing herbs awaited. She sat on a woven mat and closed her eyes. Sol's healers placed gentle hands on her brow, easing her fatigue with their own technology. Reed watched from the pavilion's entrance. He felt concern and admiration for Ariola, who would protect her no matter the cost. Outside, the council and villagers set to work. Men and women carried crystal bricks and beaten metal to build walls around the orchard. Children gathered crystal powder to weave new fibers. The sage directed the effort, chanting blessings. Envoy Sol taught the builder new ways to shape crystal shards into solid beams. Reed joined them, using tools from his pack to cut and shape fragments. He felt tired but determined. Every hammered shard, every thread woven, was a step toward safety. Hours later, the walls rose half their height. The orchard lay behind a barrier of gleaming crystal and metal lattice. Relays stood behind protective frames. Torches lit the path, their flames reflecting in crystal surfaces. A faint hum of energy pulsed through the barrier. Reed paused, leaning. On his makeshift hammer, Sol approached and offered him water. You work hard, he said. Reed nodded. This world and its people deserve safety. Sol tapped his helmet. And you deserve rest, too. Reed shook his head. I will rest when the thread ends. Sol looked at him kindly. We will guard the grove tonight, he said. You should sleep. Ariola emerged from the pavilion, refreshed and calm. She walked to Reed and Sol. Thank you, she said. You honor me. Reed smiled and took her hand. We honor each other. That night, the grove was quiet. The barrier glowed softly under the twin moons. Inside, Reed and Ariola rested on a bed of woven leaves, their hands entwined. Outside, Sol and the Guardian patrolled the walls, watchful eyes and weapons ready. Reed gazed at the stars. The Syrax Empire still loomed, but tomorrow they would face it with stronger defenses and new allies. He pressed a kiss to Ariola's hand. With you I am never afraid, he whispered. Ariola smiled. And with you, I have hope, she said. Together they drifted into sleep, ready for the challenges dawn would bring. Reed woke to the soft glow of dawn over the crystal walls, stretched and looked at Ariola, still asleep beside him. He rose quietly and stepped outside. Dew clung to the grass, and the air smelled of hope. Behind the barrier the orchard lay. Safe for now. Ariola joined him at the wall, rubbing her eyes. Any news? She asked. Reed shook his head. All quiet. Sol and the Guardian patrol below. The portal stays open for messages to the Artemis. Ariola smiled. We have time to prepare. She touched the barrier. I can feel the temples. Strength here. They walked back toward the grove, where villagers worked under the rising sun. The builder oversaw a team shaping crystal beams into arches, and the sage chanted blessings over each piece. Children carried water buckets to the healer's tent. The orchard seemed to pulse with life. Envoy Sol greeted them. Our patrol found nothing but Syrax debris in the crash site, he said. They will send ground troops next. Reed frowned. We need a plan to face them. He thought of human tactics. We can lure their forces into the valley's narrow pass. Ariola nodded. The Pass of Echoes. It once served as a trap for raiders. Reed pointed on the map. We position our guardians here and here. He tapped 2 points near cliffs. Then we draw the enemy through. The walls will slow them, and our forces can flank. Sol studied. The map? I will lead a team of Confederation scouts to guide them. Areola and Reed thanked Sol. They carved orders into crystal tablets and sent runners to the villages. Soon workers moved to set up defensive positions along the pass. That afternoon, Reed met with the council. The healer, historian, guardian, builder, and sage gathered around the table. Reed laid out the plan. Divide our forces. Half hold the pass, half stay with the temple. The temple must remain protected, the guardian agreed. We'll command the pass. The builder said, we will strengthen the cliffs with crystal anchors. The healer added, I will prepare healing stations along the route. Areola looked at each member. We stand together, she said softly. Our unity is our strength. That evening, Reed and Areola walked to the portal arch. Reed activated his comlink. The Artemis answered. Captain Reed, said the voice. Of Lieutenant Jan, we read you. Reed reported the defense plan and requested emergency drones. Send what you can. We need support. Jan replied, we have sent 2 squads of security drones. They will arrive through the portal within minutes. Areola closed her eyes. Thank you, friend. The portal shimmered, and soon small metal drones rolled into the grove. They had legged frames and mounted tasers. Sol's scouts helped them to their designated posts. Reed inspected a drone. These will slow the enemy. The Guardian nodded. We will guide them. That night, Reed and Areola stood atop the cliff overlooking the pass. Torches lined the rim. Crystal spikes gleamed in the torchlight. Silence reigned. Areola placed a hand on Reed's arm. I feel the enemy's approach. Reed smiled grimly. Then we must be ready. In the valley below, dozens of Sirac soldiers. Advanced in tight formation, their armor dark and angular. They carried energy rifles and moved carefully. At their lead walked a heavy walker, Mech. Sol, hidden among the cliffs, signaled with a mirrored shard. The mech paused as if studying the opening. Then the soldiers entered the pass. Reed watched as the drones snapped to life, stunning the first flanking soldiers. Some dropped to the ground, dazed. Others fired blindly at the torches, wasting shots from behind. Areola whispered a command and sent a pulse of energy that cracked the cliff face above the pass. Crystal anchors snapped and released a shower of glittering shards. The Sirac shields flickered under the psychic force. The Guardian emerged with his crystalline blade, leading a strike team of villagers and scouts. They charged down the cliffside, surprising the soldiers. The Siracs faltered under the combined human and alien attack. Reed fired his sidearm at the walker's joints. Aiming for its hydraulic pistons, sparks flew, and the mech limped. Sol's scouts flanked the mech, planting charges at its ankles. With a burst, the mech toppled into the rocks below. The Sirac's commander shouted orders, but his troops were in disarray. The drones zapped stragglers, and the villagers pressed their advantage. Reed joined the fray, moving with precise, disciplined strikes. Areola soared above the soldiers, her mind weaving through theirs, sowing doubt. Some dropped their weapons, too confused to fight. Others ran for cover, tripping over crystal spikes. Within minutes, the pass was secure. Only a handful of Siracs remained who surrendered at the temple doors. As the commander knelt before Areola. We yield, he said. Areola looked at Reed. He nodded. She raised her hand. Let them live, she said. They may choose a better path. Reed and Sol disarmed the prisoners. The historian recorded their words. The wounded were led to healing tents. The orchard's healing light pulsed gently. That night, a celebration rose in the grove once more. Villagers danced around the torches. Children chased glowing fireflies. Among the trees, Reed and Areola sat on a stone bench, watching the joy. Areola leaned on Reed's shoulder. We did it, she said softly. Reed kissed her hair. Together, he said. Envoy Sol joined them. The Confederation thanks you, he said. We will remain as allies, Areola smiled. Our alliance is forged. She looked at Reed. And our bond is stronger than any weapon. Reed held her hand. We protect what we love, he said, as the music rose and lanterns twinkled. Human, alien, and Indara envoy shared a moment of peace. Tomorrow would bring new tasks rebuilding beyond the orchard. rebuilding trust across the galaxy, but here, under the twin moons, they celebrated unity and hope. And so, in the heart of a world saved by crystallite and human courage, Captain Reed and Princess Areola stood together, ready to guide their people toward a future where two species would walk as friends, never foes. Reed woke to the soft light of morning shining through the crystal grove. The air smelled of fresh dew and growing leaves. Round him, the orchard buzzed with renewed life. Saplings stretched toward the sky, and flowers unfurled their petals in delicate colors. He found Areola at the heart of the grove, kneeling beside a newly planted tree. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Today is a good day," she said. Reed joined her, placing a hand on the young trunk. "It is," he agreed. "We have come far." Areola nodded and closed her eyes. She reached out with her mind, feeling the temple's pulse in every crystal. "Vane, the network grows stronger," she said. "Soon our world will be whole again." Reed looked around at the villagers working nearby. Some tended to fruit trees, others built new homes with crystal beams and wooden frames. Children played under the lanterns that glowed softly in the dawn light. The human donated tools, and the Andara envoys' designs blended with the local style to create a village both ancient and new. He touched Areola's hand. "I'm proud of what we did," he said. She squeezed his fingers. "We did it together." They rose and walked toward the edge of the grove. Envoy Sol and the builder stood by a fresh blueprint carved on crystal. Sol pointed to a distant ridge. "Our scouts report a Sirac settlement nearby," he said. "They gather under a banner of peace. They seek refuge." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Refuge?" Sol nodded. "These soldiers surrendered after the battle. They saw our mercy and hoped to rebuild with us." Areola considered. "Mercy did more than force of arms," she said. "It showed them our strength and our compassion." She looked at Reed. "We should welcome them," Reed agreed. "If they truly want peace, we can guide them." They summoned the council to meet under the Pavilion of Light. The sage, healer, historian, guardian, and builder gathered with Areola, Red, and Sol. The Sarax refugees stood in humble rows behind Sol, their helmets removed, faces weary. They carried supply crates and simple belongings. Areola addressed the group. "We fought to save this world. But now we rebuild. I propose we share our resources and knowledge with those who wish to join us in peace." The healer stepped forward. "I will teach them our healing ways," the builder said. "We will show them how to work with crystal safely," the sage added. "We will include them in our rituals so they learn respect for the network." The historian smiled. "And I will record their stories so we never forget how we became friends." The guardian looked at the weary soldiers. "I will train them to guard, not to conquer." Reed cleared his throat. "Humans share technology freely, but only with those who prove their trust." He looked at the Sirax commander. "Will you help us heal this world?" The commander bowed his head. "I will," he said. "We owe you our lives and our future." Areola raised her hand. "So it is decided." Cheers rose softly. The Sirac soldiers and villagers came together in handshakes and embraces. Reed watched as walls between former enemies vanished. That afternoon, Reed and Areola toured the farm fields beyond the orchard. Green rows of crystal-tended crops swayed in the breeze. The healer tended to wounded soil, and children helped plant new seeds. Areola knelt to inspect a row of crystal pepper plants. "They grow well," she said. Reed smiled. "The temple's energy guides them." Areola looked at him with gratitude. "And you guided me." Reed's heart warmed. He placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. "And you guided me." They rose and walked to a nearby hill where villagers had built a viewing stone. From there they could see the entire valley. The temple stood at its center, its crystal spires reaching for the sky. The protective wall glowed softly around the orchard. Beyond, fields and homes spread like a tapestry. At the far ridge, the Sirac settlement took shape with tents and workshops. Areola rested her head on Reed's shoulder. "Look what we built together," she said. Reed wrapped an arm around her. "Look what two species can do when we trust each other." Areola nodded. "I once thought our worlds were forever separate." Reed squeezed her hand. Now they stand together. They sat in silence, watching smoke rise from cooking fires and hearing laughter on the wind. The living crystal beneath them pulsed in rhythm with their hearts. That evening, a delegation from the Sirac settlement arrived at the temple. They brought gifts, woven cloth from their home world, rare herbs, and a sculpture of a crystal guardian. The builder accepted the gifts with grace. The historian recorded the moment. Reed and Soul stood beside Areola as the commander spoke. "We give these gifts in thanks and friendship," he said. "May our alliance last 1,000 years." Areola placed her hand on the sculpture. "It will," she said. "As long as we remember mercy over might." Later, under the twin moons, a festival lit the valley. Lanterns floated on the lake and music rose from crystal instruments. Bleachers danced in colored robes, humans and Siracs alike. Reed and Areola moved through the crowd, greeting friends. Sharing stories, they paused by a pavilion where a child offered them a woven wreath of crystal flowers. The child beamed. Red knelt and accepted it. "Thank you," he said softly. Areola placed it on his head like a crown. He laughed. "A crown?" Areola nodded. "You are a hero to us." Reed looked at her. "And you are our princess." They shared a quiet embrace. The music swelled, and fireworks of bioluminescent spores drifted overhead, glowing gently in the night sky. Reed took Areola's hand and led her to the temple steps. They climbed together and looked out over the valley one last time. The festival. Lights twinkled below like distant stars. The crystal spires of the temple blinked with energy. Beyond the walls, the fields and settlements spread in peaceful order. Areola closed her eyes and breathed deeply. "Our world is safe," she said. Reed nodded. "Thanks to you and to us." Areola opened her eyes and looked at him. "We share a bond stronger than any crystal network." Reed smiled. "That bond will guide us forward." They leaned together, watching the spores drift across the sky. Far above, the stars glimmered. Reed felt hope swell in his chest. They had faced darkness and war. They had risked everything to protect this world. And now, in the glow of friendship and unity, they stood ready to face any challenge the future might bring. In that moment, human and alien princess stood side by side, their hearts and worlds entwined, proving that hope and trust could overcome any fear. The violet planet beneath them pulsed with new life, and their story would echo through the ages as a testament to unity, courage, and the power of two species walking together in peace.